If you're a college-bound junior or senior in high school, then the ACT exam is probably one of the most important exams you will ever take. Now, like it or not, most colleges and universities in the United States will rely on your ACT score to make two key decisions. Number one, whether they're going to admit you to their institution, and if they do, whether or not they're going to give you a scholarship when you get there. Now, of course, most schools do take other factors into consideration, such as your high school GPA, whether you took AP classes, any leadership experience you had, as well as your extracurricular activities. However, your ACT score still heavily influences admission and scholarships decisions. Therefore, it is vital that you score as high as you possibly can on the ACT exam. Now, one of the most important things for you to remember is the fact that the ACT exam uses a very specific format and a very specific structure. And it has a set of rules that governs how it works. As such, you need to change your perception of the test itself. Instead of viewing it as an exam, you should instead view it as a sort of game. Now, when I say game, I'm not implying that you should take the exam lightly. Far from it. Instead, I'm saying that you should view the exam as a contest that you desperately want to win. Now, just as when you play basketball, football, Angry Birds, Fruit Ninja, or Candy Crush, you need to learn the ACT game and figure out a strategy for winning. Probably the first thing you need to do is understand what the ACT exam really is. Now, it's composed of 5 separate subject exams. There's an English exam, a mathematics exam, a reading exam, a science exam, and a writing exam. Although be aware of the fact that the writing exam is optional. Some schools do require it, but most don't. You need to check with the schools that you're applying to determine whether or not you need to take it. Now, before you can take the exam, you do need to visit the ACT website, which is actstudent.org. Once you're there, you need to register for a specific exam date and a specific exam location. And when you do, have your credit card ready because you're going to have to pay a fee each time you take the exam. It's about $40. Now, when you register, you will be required to upload a photo of yourself. The testing center will use this photo to verify your identity when you show up to take your exam. Therefore, it's a really good idea to use a photo that actually looks like you. So if you've gotten a pink mohawk since that photo was taken, you may want to consider getting an updated one. Now, after registration, you'll receive a ticket that admits you to the ACT testing center. Don't lose it! If you don't bring it on test day, you're not going to be able to take your exam. So, with this background in mind, let's discuss some general tips that you can use to get prepared for the ACT exam. If you play competitive sports, you know that you must have your head in the game on game day. Now, this means that you are focused solely on the game and you shed any distractions that could affect that focus. Well, the same principle holds true with the ACT exam. You need to have your head in the exam on your exam day. This means you need to remove any distractions that are going to affect your focus. We're going to talk about some tips that can help you do this. First of all, after registration, write down your exam date, and it doesn't really matter how you do it. Put it in your phone, write it on your calendar, or better yet, just tell your mom, because believe it or not, many students actually forget their exam date, and they end up having not enough time to prepare. Sometimes they may even miss the exam date completely. Then, on the day of the exam, be sure to allow adequate travel time. You never know when you're going to run into a traffic jam. Or maybe you'll have a mechanical issue of some sort with your car. I've actually had this happen to me on my way to a testing center to take an exam. Trust me, it's a very stressful situation. In addition, you should try to show up early enough that you can find a parking spot and then walk to the testing center. Now, if you're taking the exam at a college or a university, you may find that you have to walk a very long distance to get from the parking lot to the building where the exams are administered. And the last thing you need right before your exam is to feel all stressed out and rushed. Then, when you check in at the testing location, be prepared to show that ticket that you received when you registered for the exam. If you forget to bring it, you are toast. You will not be allowed to take the exam. In addition to your ticket, you also have to provide photo identification before you'll be allowed to take the test. Now, the reason for this is that in the past, there have been problems with students actually hiring professional test takers to take their ACT exams for them, which is called cheating, by the way. So, to prevent this, you are now required to provide one of two different forms of ID when you take your test. One option is to provide a current ID card that has your photo on it, that was issued by a state, federal, city, or some other government agency, including your school. Now, it does have to be a plastic ID card with your photo on it. Anything that's been printed on a printer or photocopied will not be accepted. If you don't have photo ID, don't despair. You can use an official ACT student identification letter with your photo on it as well. If you need one of these, go talk to your high school counselor. They're the ones that can get you one. Now, there are several types of IDs that will not be accepted as a valid ID for taking the ACT exam. For example, you cannot use your birth certificate, a credit card, your high school diploma, your fishing license, your Costco card, a learner's permit without your photo on it, your social security card, an ID badge from work. You can't use your Facebook page, and you can't use a photocopy of your driver's license. Also, when you get to the testing center, be prepared to turn off all of your electronic devices. Yes, that means your phone. You won't be allowed to use these devices during the exam. And they're serious about this, so don't even try. Now, this has serious ramifications. It means that you'll have to go several hours without texting and without posting to Instagram. Breathe deeply. You can do it. I believe in you. Now, you will be allowed to bring in a calculator as long as it's an approved model. You can go to actstudent.org to see which models are approved. Also be aware that you can't bring in any scratch paper into the testing center. In fact, the last testing center that I visited wouldn't even allow hats. So, in this case, be prepared to show the world your hat hair. Now, also, being well rested is a key to performing well in your ACT exam. So try to relax. Don't get so worked up that you can't sleep the night before your exam. Get to bed at a reasonable hour. If you decide to stay up all night playing Call of Duty right before your exam, I can guarantee you that you will be sorely disappointed with your exam scores. Also, eat a good breakfast before you go take your exam. Understand that your brain requires a tremendous amount of calories to operate, so you need to give it the fuel that it needs. Skipping breakfast is not a wise thing to do on the day of your ACT exam. Also, when you go to take your exam, bring several soft lead number 2 pencils that have good erasers. Don't try to use a mechanical pencil, pen, or a hard lead pencil. The scanners that are used to score the ACT answer sheets don't like them. Now, before we end, I need to emphasize that strategy, tips, and tricks will only carry you so far. If you're not academically prepared for the ACT, you will still score poorly. You need to get mentally fit for your ACT exam. You need to take academically challenging courses while you're still in high school. And I know this can be a very difficult thing to do, especially for seniors, because during your senior year, 2 really detrimental things commonly happen. Number 1, you've met all of the basic requirements for graduation, so you enroll in courses like Underwater Basket Weaving 101 and Advanced Convenience Store Patronage 200. The second thing that happens is that senioritis sets in with a vengeance, and you spend as little time on campus as possible, and even when you are there, you're not really there. Now, these 2 factors can really impact your ACT exam score. So, if your institution offers them, I strongly recommend that you use your time in high school to enroll in courses such as Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, Geometry, Trigonometry, Chemistry, Physics, Earth Science, Biology, and English Literature, and college writing too especially. These courses will address the topics that you're going to see on the ACT exam. Now, on top of these courses, I also strongly recommend that you enroll in an ACT exam preparation course. Now, I'm not going to kid you, these courses are very expensive. They cost about $400 on average, and they go up from there. However, research has shown that these courses can significantly increase students' ACT exam scores. I read an article recently that reported an average 4-point increase for students who had taken an ACT test prep course versus those who had not taken such a course. Therefore, investing some cash in an ACT test prep course could potentially result in a financial return in the form of scholarships. For example, I recently spoke with an incoming college freshman whose parents forked out about $400 to send him through an ACT test prep course. And as a result, he got a great ACT score, and he was subsequently awarded a $2,500 a year scholarship at a local university. That's not a bad return on investment. That's it for this lesson. In this lesson, we gave you several key suggestions that you can use to help prepare for your ACT exam. Best of luck to you as you go take that test.